What's up, guys? It's Chris. Welcome to VHP Engines. So yeah, I'm gonna have a little discussion here. Ooh, boy, a lot of stuff done in the last 3 or 4 hours. I've done. I got up off the couch, went to the fucking gym, came back, put a crank in the K24. I still got the jitters. I think I got the jitters from the workout and I don't know. My hands are a little bit shaky still. I feel a little. Ooh. Yeah, no, I didn't take a pre-workout. The closest thing to a pre-workout, I guess, would be the what's that shit called? The Bang. I drank a Bang. It was one of those zero calorie energy drink type deals. It's supposed to got amino acids in it and whatnot, and they're marketing it to gearheads. Gym gearheads. As a fucking it's like a pre-workout, because effectively it is. Now I'm rambling. Holy Jesus. Anyway, the reason why I'm rambling is because I'm looking through my VHP Engines Facebook here. Plug for that if you haven't gone and checked that out and followed it. For this post I posted. Okay, so I don't follow enough tuners, and I need to remedy that. And I should know better because Durf anyway. Here's a quick rundown, right? So out of the tuners in South Florida, I've only ever gone personally to one guy, and that's Lee. And who at the time when he tuned my shit, he was working at Genesis. And the next guy I go to tune my shit is going to be Eddie, because I like Eddie. Me and him have a personal relationship already, and I feel I should give him my business, and I'm gonna. So there's Lee, Eddie, Javi, and Durf. Now, as far as the other two guys go, Durf and Javi, I've talked to both of them. The person I rather enjoyed talking to the most was Javi. But I haven't had enough interactions with Durf to really judge the guy. I just know that he's not one of those dudes that has patience to talk to you at any kind of length, which is understandable. I'd imagine with the amount of people he's got talking to him. But anyway, all four of these guys have tuned an engine I built. That's the point I was getting at. Javi's tuned one of the engines I built. He tuned the B16, Ivan's B16. If you look on my after build reviews, that dyno, that was Javi that tuned that. And then Genesis, Eddie tuned my was it B18 or LSV build that I made for Blake, and then and Durf tuned the Vitara single cam that I did. So all the big famous guys have actually had their tuning abilities done on one of my engines. It's just been a while since I've had one brought to him. Anyway, so what the whole thing was here, the reason why I'm making this video is I was kind of like sarcastically saying, I shared one of Durf's clips, one of his tunes. It's a, what was the year? Stock K28-2 block, built head with stock cams. So, the valve train, which, the valve train doesn't add power. It just, the beefier valve train, less chances of dropping a valve or whatnot. So built head, and it doesn't specify port work, so I'm going to just say, built head as in the valve train. It doesn't say ported. So built head, stock cams, S366 turbo, E85. So stock A20 on E85 with the valve train done. Okay, so the valve train's done. But other than that, stock pistons, rods, stock cams. 670 wheel horsepower, 415 foot-pound torque. Now, the funny thing was, when I first saw the picture, it's me scrolling through my phone, and I was like, oh, 415, it's not bad. It's not bad power. And then I looked over, I was like, oh, that's torque. That's not the power. 670, man. 670, damn near 700 wheel horsepower. And I think what humbles is the thumbnail I'm using. Why? Because I made a video that about the 500 wheel horsepower thing in January, it turns out. So anyway, so I posted it, and I said that it's like sarcastically, it's like, why the fuck did I get pistons and rods for a 600 wheel horsepower goal? Because I already knew that that there was 500 plus horsepower Ks out there a bunch of times, but the only thing was, a lot of the ones I was seeing back in the day, a couple years ago, was blowing up, right? But here's the thing, right? And I say this all the time. It doesn't matter how well built an engine is, an engine can still go. Once you start to throw power at it that it was never designed to come out with, you're looking at potentially blowing it up. And if you put pistons and rods, putting piston rods doesn't necessarily mean it's going to never blow up. It can still blow up. It's just, the chances are lessened greatly by having that. Plus, you can beat on it a little bit more. Like a misshift on a stock engine at that kind of power level will probably send a rod through the block. A misshift on that power level with, you know, forged rods, well, you know, might not. I've had a couple of scary moments with my B16 back in the day where I missed a gear and I was like, oh my god, and then like putting it back in gear and hoping that it doesn't go you know, so it still can happen, but it's just a lot less likely. And that's what I talked about in that 500 horsepower stock thing, you know, and I was like, well, you know, if you have less cushion for safety, so if you make a mistake in an engine like that, with that, you know, that kind of power level with a stock engine, now the chances are that it's going to go boom, or it's a lot more likely that it'll go boom. And so that's the one thing. The funny thing was, you know, people started talking a lot about this. Like I posted that, and then I'm getting like, oh, you know, how long will it last and all this shit. I'm like, yeah, I know, I've mentioned that, you know, because you see so many of these big horsepower guys out there on stock Ks, and the thing is that people like to talk about the success stories and they don't like to talk too much about the failures. So like, well, let's just tuck them shits under the rug. And then going back and watching an old Humble video, not super old, but one of the older Humble videos, I think it was stock K24, 600 horsepower, right? He's taking it to the track and they're like, it's beat on, and then he's like, beat on every weekend, and he's like, well, we can see what happens, you know, because anything can happen, which is true. Now, one of the things I've said is like, when you see these stock engines that are making these power levels, I'm like, well, how is it driven? How often is it driven? You know, the circumstances being driven under, because that makes a difference on how long it's going to last. Like if you're daily driving, beating on this every day while you're driving it, versus, you know, being on the weekend of the track, you make a pass, go home, or take it out every once in a while to run some people on the streets in Mexico. Then it's, you know, then we're talking a different story, different circumstances versus how long it lasts long term. But at the same time too, you know, and then also ties in with another video I said, you know, it was just can versus should. And that video was a lot longer and it was multiple topics in it, but I'm still gonna link both of those in the end card just in case you want to go see them. Maybe you haven't seen them already. I think they're both of them are low viewed. I think they're both at like 500 views, so I know that a lot of people haven't seen them. But I also mentioned too, like in the can versus should, one of the things I touched on that was important to me was we need to look at the case for how many people are doing it. You know, like you need a large case study to see how many people are doing this for how much time to reevaluate. Now, that, you know, brings me to this, and the reason why I use Humble Performance in the thumbnail is because they got multiple cars. This is a regular common occurrence thing. Now, throughout the years, they've had cars where they've done the, you know, this 500 horsepower or 500 plus on a stock block, but now they're collecting a bunch at the same time. So you're going to be able to see the lifespan of these. One's a K24, one's a K20. So and if you can read it or not, just go to their Instagram or whatever. It's not too far down in the pictures. 3 500 plus wheel horsepower Ks. Stock engine Ks, and then like 3 more on the way that are going to be 600 plus. And then you got Durfee that's doing 670. I know for a fact that it's not his first stock 500 plus horsepower K, because there's a lot of guys that are out there running Okeechobee, Mexico. They were also looking at those same power levels. Now, the only thing is, I can say that I'm not hearing recently of these guys blowing up, but and I'm not saying that people are trying to hide that, but you know, like I said, we're got a longer case study now. We can see if it's gonna go pop or not. But I think that the fact that we had this many showing up on the scene, we can say that maybe it's shifting a little bit, and because it's been a couple years, you know, tuning methods change, tuning software changes. Things change, you know, for you to be able to do things a little bit more precise, a little safer, or whatnot. You know, parts or like just everything changes. So everything changes with time. Like, you know, 500 plus in a horsepower, or 500 horsepower in a K series wasn't a normal thing until, you know, 4 Pistons started doing their craziness. So yeah, guys, like you're all some of you guys in here lecturing on like the obvious. I've already talked about it, and the surprising thing is for some of you guys that I've seen that were kind of talking about, or like people that have been around long enough to know that I've mentioned this a bunch of times. And I even mentioned earlier in the year too, where it was it's a minor contention point for me, like when I was talking to Kenny about how they dialed back K series, stock K series that were making 500 plus on the dyno, not because they're trying to save the engine, but because they're trying to save the trans. Now, I've also mentioned before that K-Series trannies are hit or miss after 400 wheel horsepower, apparently. But, you know, still, I still slightly disagree. I still think that it's a gamble once you pass 500 wheel horsepower, and I still believe that it is, and mainly because of safety factor, because, like, there's so little room for you to make a mistake once you cross that in the 500 horsepower territory. But yeah, I think that it's not such a stretch to say 600 horsepower is a regular thing, not just 5. And I think 700, man, it's doable, but that's, I think, man, you're really pushing it. But man, I look forward to the time where I can regularly crank out engines and, you know, get them running out there. And just for you guys that are, you know, just for you guys that may be a little confused about me, I'm trying to, you know, popularize myself so I can build more engines, so that way I can make more money. And if I'm making more money off building engines, then I can build more cars. I can build cars faster because I can afford the parts I need faster. Like, one of the things that's holding me off from building a Turbo K right now is just the goddamn exhaust manifolds alone is $400. And then the fucking clutch is gonna be $1,000 or $1,000 plus, depending on which one I get. But it's gonna be, I have to get a twin disc, so I can't really dance around that anymore. And fuel systems may need to be upgraded. The stock fuel lines, I think, may not be a go if I'm looking at 600 plus wheel horsepower. And then on top of that, we're talking about bigger fuel pumps and big ass fucking injectors, because the E85, that's all, you know, all of the expenses at a minimum double when you're trying to cross that 500 horsepower mark. So, you know, if I can start making more money off the side work, you know, and not have to save money out of my normal job as income, then we can see about race car. In the meantime, I think of course the focus is going to be on finishing the Turbo B and then doing the NAK for the RSX, because I still think that's going to be respectable power there. Plus, I got something to prove. I think that if I can show off that fucking K20, that K21 there, and make some good power there, I think that's going to be a big money maker for me, and I can start buying some A3s again to finish moving when I got here. And that won't be a complicated build, you know, because NA is we just bore over, throw nip and racing pistons and go, send it. So, yeah, anyway, it's not, it's just kind of like to point out humble performance again. And I think that we're going to start seeing more and more of this. But it's funny because I like turbo, and the turbo is always a thing that I figured I'd, you know, if I ever built a super fast car, or if I wanted to do a race car, I figured turbo would be the route that I would go. But I think that the real challenge now for racing is that NA class, that fucking 9-second index NA, and that's eventually the goal. I can't wait till I get to the point where I can build one of those cars. I think that's gonna be the real big splash. Hopefully, in 3 or so years, I can start focusing on stuff like that. Right now, it's just finishing out the getting engine work done, and getting some numbers back, and then seeing where things go from there. Because this year has been, you know, a big year for me. And I still think I'm taking baby steps, so we'll see where it goes the next couple of years from now. So if 2019 was this good and so much was accomplished, and we're not even finished with the year, we're only halfway through it, and so much has been accomplished so far. So God only knows what's going to happen in 2 years from now. On top of that, so yeah, there's that. I did do the K24. I bolted the main or the crank into the K24, so that's coming shortly. This will probably be uploaded first because it's a shorter video. The other one's pretty long for, you know, the minimal amount of work that I did. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out real quick and talk to you guys, and I'm gonna end my night. So guys, thanks for watching, and peace.